This particular topic is probably very familiar to most of you. We've been through it several times since 2005. Just across the road here at the junction of West A Street, North Main, and Washington, where they converge, we have a small piece of property. And we have been renting this or leasing this to Cadillac Jacks or CJs to use as parking, and for $50 a month. And and we've typically gone 2 years at a time and renewed the lease, and that lease is expired at the end of February. And we were directed the last time to come back with a recommendation on more of a long-term or permanent use of this property. Parks and Recreation Commission took a look at this, and their recommendation was that the city divest itself of the property. And they based that on that it's not suitable for a park or other form of social gathering place, and that it's not suitable for green space, and it would be because of its specific location and some adjacent businesses that it would likely be an overburdensome maintenance cost for the city. At one time, this was looked at as a possible park, small pocket park with some art features to it. Since that time, the Arts Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Paradise Path Task Force have all stated that they do not think this is suitable for that type of use. And so we're basically back to square one. Staff's recommendation for this go-around is to renew the lease, but instead of having a termination point, leave it an ongoing lease with a clause in there with the 90-day notification period where we can change our minds, or same thing with the applicant or the lessor. And so with that, I've got a few slides here so you can see this is how it is presently, and little broader picture. You can see the highway, North Main, and A Street is just right about here, I believe. And some of the options that we talked about, plus, you could go 5 years. There's other things we could do too. At one time, we looked at some possible just green space, fill in with the different kinds of shrubbery to beautify that a bit. Run the curb. Right now, there's an entryway right here, but go ahead and run the curb and have angled parking for the public. And there was also the idea that we could actually pave that and create some parking inside. Right now it's gravel, but this line right here is the CJ's property line, and they are not interested in using that in this kind of configuration. They don't want to give up the space, and their preference is that we renew the lease. And there's discussion, as you might recall, Bill Belknap's been working on an entryway beautification plan, and this could be possibly part of that. Right now, I mean, if you go down Washington, I mean, there are no trees through here, and so it's possible, there is one tree right here, but it's possible to do some planting along there. It would likely involve a retaining wall and some work so you could actually have trees in there that it would sustain trees. But at the same time, once you go through that, then you have less area for any kind of parking. So you start to go back to the point where it would make more sense, if that was the case, to go ahead and fill that with some green or something of that nature. And then as a street view, this is the parking area here. And so as you can see, it's not very attractive in the manner that it's currently sits. So greenery could be planted here, work through that. On the eastern side of the road, it's actually very attractive, but they also have the space to do that, and it doesn't interfere with the parking that they have because their lot's bigger. So you have a lot of options here to think about. Primarily, the decision is whether to release this or not. If we lease it, that gives us time and the opportunity to come up with other kinds of plans, or you could make the decision tonight to do whatever else you would prefer. And with that, Phil is here, Phil Roderick. If you have some questions for him,
Well,
I'll be here too.
I'm going to turn it over to Council Dwight. Thank you. Walter, this was on Public Works and Finance.
It was brought to us as presented without the street view picture that's new tonight, or without, I don't think we had this picture that shows the lot lines platted in streets, and this is important in a moment, a comment that I'd like to make.
Correct.
But what Dwight brought to us was 5 options, and the one thing that Public Works and Finance did was to request that the options, the first 2 options be to renew the lease with no expiration date, or to divest the city divest itself of the property, and we did not give a priority to either one of those. We did ask him to go ahead and list the remaining 3 options that he had given to us in no particular order. So the Public Works Finance Committee leaned toward the lease it for an undetermined length of time, or the city divest itself, and with that, we threw the ball to the whole council to talk about it and decide what they wish to do. If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
the slide that Dwight has up there, I asked that we get that because a proposal came to us, I think by email, that if and when someday there's a bypass of the city of Moscow by US 95, and the city could recapture the grid system in this area and not have US 95 do that S-curve, that retaining this property would allow us to put the grid streets back in. My belief, looking at this, and either Les or Bill or Dwight could speak to it, is that this property has no bearing on that. A Street remains platted and goes across the area adjacent to the Corner Club. I think the lines are slightly off. I don't think the north property line of A Street goes through the Corner Club. But the point being made that this property lies south of A Street, and gridding the system down there someday would not be impacted by any decision we make tonight. With that being said,
Okay. John?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I spend time now with the planning and zoning. And the planning and zoning, we've been discussing the possible extension of the downtown business district to the north. And this particular piece is right on the edge of that discussion. And so, along with Walter, although I'm a little bit more, I would like to see us renew the lease with no particular expiration date, and let's find out what's going to happen with the possible changing of the downtown business district. It may or may not change, but I would just as soon, if we could, and we can, push this into the future once that is done, and then if we need to make a decision on it, then we can. But right now, I would prefer to just continue with the lease as it is with no expiration date.
Is that a motion?
No, I was chastised for making motions too early.
John, you can make a motion, it can always be second, there can be further discussion, so. Art had something you wanted to comment on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that
I'll let other people make motions.
divesting a city of property is a lengthy and involved process. And right now, with the stated council goals of beautification of both the city entrances and certain selected locations within town, I think buying some time through a long-term lease with a termination clause inserted in it would probably best serve this. And shoot, put up some greenery there, and as was seen in that one slide, kind of give a little more scenery to that curve.
Wayne?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to renew the existing lease without a specific expiration date, including the current monetary and maintenance conditions, termination clause, and specified termination notice period.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Wayne and a second by John to extend the lease without an expiration date. If I understood that right?
Yep.
Does that sound right? Walter?
Wayne, staff had a proposed 90-day notice by either party to terminate the lease. I wanted to ask Dwight if there's any magic to the 90 days. Would 30 or 60 be there'd be different numbers? Would they be any better?
I don't think so. I mean, things move slow enough that, I mean, I thought it was more along the lines of more help for the, for CJ's, because it would be some kind of a decision for their business, or that might impact their business, but otherwise, I don't know. 90 days just seemed to.
So that motion has the 90 days in it? Am I correct on that? Hang on a second, Gary.
Well, the motion doesn't, but
Yeah, the concern I have is you're essentially granting a perpetual lease with a 90-day termination provision, which is not allowed. You can give a month-to-month lease that can be terminated upon 90 days' notice, which would be allowed because you're measuring month to month. Typical municipal leases are anywhere up to 99 years, at least in municipal attorneys' opinions, and I believe by Idaho code that that's the maximum a municipality can lease something for. So you don't want to make it a perpetual lease.
so that option shouldn't have been given to us then?
I wouldn't have recommended it. That doesn't mean that it wasn't, I mean, the way it was written was that, at least the intent, was that it's a continuing lease terminated upon 90 days' notice. Okay, but I would not call it a perpetual lease, which essentially is what the motion is for.
John?
I would amend the motion then and add to it a month-by-month lease with a 90-day
That doesn't work.
termination.
That doesn't work.
Gary just said it did. Isn't that what you just said a minute ago?
Month to month works.
Month
That's
to
what
If
he
you put
said.
the term in, not to exceed 99 years.
Yeah, a recurring month-to-month lease.
But, if I may, but if it's month to month, how can you have a 90-day notice? It expires every 30 days.
Okay, if you prefer, you could say the lease to extend no longer than 99 years, and that would do the same thing, if you prefer that.
If I may, you're just having a problem with no length.
With no period, with no
Having
end
a
on it?
perpetual lease, I am having a problem with, yes.
You made the motion, sir.
You want 99 months? Is that what you said?
No, years, Wayne.
99
Maximum.
years.
Not to extend longer
Then
than.
I will amend my motion, and I will make a new motion, I'll withdraw my motion. And I'll make a new
We have
motion.
to vote on it, we can't withdraw on
It's
this.
the body's motion
As
now.
long as you
I
get,
can withdraw it as long as the
Hang on a
second
second, Wayne, I
agrees.
want to get some advice here from the attorney. What'd you say, Rod?
It's the body's motion, but if he moves to withdraw it and the second does it, then it can be withdrawn.
You okay with him withdrawing it, John?
Whatever.
Say yes.
Pardon me?
Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, now,
Mayor, I'll make a
Continue.
motion that we renew the existing lease with a expiration date not to exceed 99 years, including the current monetary and maintenance conditions, and a termination clause with a specified termination period of 90 days.
we got a motion.
I'll second it.
Art seconded it. John, we'll start with you.
No,
What, you got a
I have a
question?
question on another item to do with this, if I may.
Okay, does that have to do with the motion, or is it?
Has to
just
do
something you
with,
wanna
has to
talk-
do with the property.
Okay, all right.
Can you go back to the street view? Thank you. The comment was made by Dwight that if street trees were to be put along Washington from the wooden structure down to the red car, there would need to be some form of retaining wall, because that parking lot, you can't tell it from here, drops off a couple of feet, 2.5 feet from the level of the sidewalk. So to put trees along there would need some small retaining wall to hold the dirt up and the trees up. I would not have a problem with trees. I would have a lot of problem with bushes on that property anywhere, because it does sit between, Dwight was kind, it sits between two bars. And I don't think it would be a safe place to have, large shrubs or bushes or anything. But trees such as those you see over on Main Street, I think, could make this look better than it does now. My question to anyone that knows the answer is that if trees were put there with some retaining wall setback, would you lose parking spaces, or a large number of the parking spaces that gravel lot is able to accommodate at the present time?
Bill, you want to take a shot at this?
Well, I don't know that I have a specific answer to that question. Certainly, vehicles do park up on the bank. I mean, I've observed cars pulling up on the bank, but that's actually
Like that
in the state right-of-way. The state right-of-way appears to vary from 18 feet to 15 feet or so from face of curb to that right-of-way line, and that's a 6-foot sidewalk. So you have anywhere from 7, 8 to 12 feet behind the walk that's actually state right-of-way, and not even the property that we're leasing under this agreement. So if you were to put the retaining wall and keep the tree plantings within the right-of-way, which would get you the 12 feet off of the edge of the traveled way, as is required under ITD for clear space, then you could place them within the right-of-way that would not impact the actual property that is being leased. Now, it's not to say that people aren't parking like the red vehicle in a combination of this property and the right-of-way, but they really don't necessarily have that right to use the right-of-way anyhow, other than it's just unregulated space right now.
Okay, I'm not going to attempt to change the motion. I, for one, would like to see staff investigate the possibility of some street trees along there, but I'm not going to change the motion.
Okay, we're all set to vote. John, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 Okay, it's 5-0, and that passes.
Thank you.
A 99-year lease with a 90-day clause in it for either party to
Up to.
up to 90 days. Very good. We'll move on then.